Our service is about to begin, and as I like to do each week before the prelude is to invite people to pray and invite God to be with you during this worship service, that God might be speaking to your heart today. So let us take time and prepare ourselves now for worship.
My name is Amy Sheridan. I will be reading Isaiah chapter 58, verse 1 through 9. Shout out, do not hold back. Lift up your voice like a trumpet. Announce to my people their rebellion, to the house of Jacob their sins. Yet day after day they seek me and delight to know my ways, as if they were a nation that practiced righteousness and did not forsake the ordinance of their God. They ask me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, you do not notice? Look, you serve your own interest on your fast day and oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. It is such the fast that I choose to humble oneself. It is to bow down and the head like a bulrush, and to lie in sackcloth and ashes. Will you call this a fast, a day accepted to the Lord? Is not this the fast that I choose? To loose the bounds of injustice, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke. Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own kin. Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator shall go before you. The glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You shall cry for help, and then he will say, Here I am. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I'm Juliana Stepp, and I am reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming of the mystery of God to you in lofty words or wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I came to you in the weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not with plausible words of wisdom, but with the demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God. Yet among the mature we do not speak wisdom, though it is not a wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age, who are doomed to perish, but we speak God's wisdom, secret and hidden, which God decreed before the ages of our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, may no eye has seen, no ear heard, nor the human heart convinced, what God has prepared for those who love him. These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit, for the Spirit reaches everything, even human spirits, what that is within. So also no one compares what is truly God's except the Spirit of God. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
I'm Quinn McGinnis, and I'll be reading Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So the sermon title is What's in Your Backpack? And for scouts, there's extremely important things when one goes hiking that one has in their backpack. So we're going to be looking at that. And first I tried to put everything together on how the salt of the earth and the light and the lamp fit in with what I was taking out of the backpack. And I decided this needed to be two different things because it didn't work really well together. But I want you to think of a couple things before I get started on unpacking this backpack. The hardest part about being a Christian for a day is not being a Christian for a day, but being faithful day after day. Maintaining confidence in what, for all of the world, it appears is a losing a cause. You know, Christianity has become what most people would consider a losing cause. So what we need to think about is how difficult it is day to day to be a Christian and to follow what we need to do each day. We live in the midst of an alien culture. I don't think we'd think it is, but it is for the church. Daily at school, I see how our culture is growing further and further away from having a spiritual understanding in their lives. And the church should be expressing that vision that is expressed in the Beatitudes. So the job of the church, and as we, a part of the church, is to be out being that light and being the salt. And so we're going to get into this a little more. So think of those two statements a little bit. So today is Scout Sunday, and Matt decided to wear my pack for me. Not light, is it? It's not, okay, it's good. So I want to unpack this a little. So are you going to stay there with this? Okay, packs have lots of room in them. And in my pack, I have a part of it that comes apart. Let's see if I can get this off. I'm just going to turn around here. The top of this comes off, and my essential things that I need for daily stuff when I'm backpacking, I keep in here. So I know where it is. And there are things that are important. One of them is a compass to keep me going in the right direction. Today we've gotten a little bit more thing, and we have GPSs, but if you're a flatlander like we are here, and you go into the mountains, the GPS isn't worth much because you have to triangulate, and so when you're in a valley in the mountains, you get a false reading, and you wind up going someplace you don't want to go. And many times, we in the church get a false reading of where we ought to be heading, and we head the wrong direction. The nice thing is we have the ability to correct that. Now, the other essentials that I keep up here are my dish soap, you notice I have little bags that keep everything in one spot so I know what's in what's here. These are little drops that purify water, so I can take water out of any stream and put some in there and let it sit for a half an hour and I can drink water. This is a bottle of what called camp suds. 2 drops in a gallon of water is the soap suds you need. Not putting the whole thing of Dawn in and having soap left over. Just 2 drops. And the reason for that is that if you put too much soap in there and the scouts don't rinse their plates really well, a lot of time they come home and they spend a lot of time on the toilet because soap sticks on the plate, and the next meal they eat, that soap is on the plate, and so before long they have ingested a lot of soap. So soap suds work really well. I have lights in here and my toothpaste, and there's all kinds of things that I use as essentials. The other thing that I keep always on top is my first aid kit. So when we think sometimes of the church, okay, as being a place to go for first aid, because it's a place we can come and rejuvenate our faith. It's a place that we can come and talk with others and understand the direction we're going. So first aid kit's really necessary. Now there's some other things I keep up here, because if I'm out by myself or with a partner, I always carry a deck of cards because it gives me something to do, so that's in my essentials. And it just gives us time to think. This one I'm going to leave for later. Okay, so on the side here, you may notice this. I have a spot that I can put my my poles for my tent. So I can put up my whole tent. It's right there. It gives structure to my backpack, and it just comes out. But inside, I have a bunch of little bags. These are called stuff sacks. And I keep things organized this way. And in our lives, we need to keep things organized. So this bag be full of my clothing. Now, I didn't put a lot in here this morning because I didn't want to carry that. But thanks, Matt. Another item that's in here is a pack cover. You see this pack here? When you're out, you don't put your pack in your tent. So you need a cover to cover it, so if it rains at night, it doesn't get wet. And this one's really ingenious because the bag for the pack is attached, is part of the sewing into the bag. And so when the pack comes out, my bag is always right here that I have to put it back in. And what's nice about this back cover, it's also a hood. And when I put it on and it's raining and I cover my pack, it covers my head and water doesn't run between my pack and my my back. But at night, you put this pack cover over your pack. So it keeps it dry. But the pack cover for us represents the fact is that we have the ability to pray and spend time with God. And God keeps us covered. He is with us in everything we do. Whether we're playing at school, whether we're in scouts, whether we're out with our family, whether we're doing work for somebody. God is with us and has got us covered, and we should be there with him. Oh, thanks. Getting further down. Now, here's, you know what, maybe I'll take out this thing that's so heavy first. This is my tent. Now, if I was really on a backpack trip, I would be sharing this with somebody, because you would have a tent buddy. And so instead of having all this weight, which wasn't that much, but the thing is, you take part of the tent, like the rain cover and the foot, and you put that in one person's backpack, and you put the other part of the tent in your backpack, and then you've lightened the weight that you're carrying. I'm not getting that out. That would take a while. Okay, thanks. The other thing I have, this is an essential for us as we get older, believe me. See if I can get this out of here. This is my Thermarest, which is an air mattress, which you put on the ground or on the inside of your tent. This is going to be tough. I stuffed this in here this morning. That's why they call them stuff sacks. But in this, you have some relaxation, a place to lay, and it comes out, it rolls up, and it's self-inflating, and it has air pockets, and you're not laying on the cold ground, and you're not laying, and you can get some sleep, because all of us needs rest to understand what our job is in the world. Because God has given us something to do, whether we know it or not. And the idea is finding out what that is. I got something else in there so I can get you out of this. Oh yeah, a raincoat. So if I'm out and I've got my pack covered, I have a rain jacket. There's things important about what you get when you get rain jackets. You don't want to get one that's water repellent. You have to spend some money to get one that is waterproof. Because if you're walking along and it's not waterproof, all the seams start to leak, and before long you're as wet on the inside as you would have been if you didn't have one on. So a good raincoat is always essential when you're out, to keep you dry. Now the last thing that'll get out of here is at the bottom of this is where I keep my sleeping bag. You thought, well, what's the sleeping bag? Well, this backpack, I keep my sleeping bag in it. I keep it down here. And the other thing that's in there, there's a couple of things in here, yeah, I got to get out. Because that is such an easy area to get into, I keep a very important item here. This is for digging a cat hole, so that when I'm in the back country, there is some place to put things that you want to dispose of, all right? And so that is an important thing to keep handy, right? You want to keep that close to you, and so that when you need it, it's there and it's available. I also have a blanket for warmth, in case it's really cold or shelter, or somebody gets hyperthermia. I carry, as a leader, I carry a sun blanket. You can sit down and keep people warm in that. I do that. But in here, these are how the stuff sack looks if I have it full of clothes, but this happens to have my sleeping bag. Now this doesn't look like a very big sleeping bag until you open all this up. They're okay. That's a good sound to hear. So, as you see, this thing is growing immediately because you can pull it down to make it very small and it fits in your thing. And then you can start pulling out your sleeping bag. So if you're wondering how people get all this stuff in their backpacks, it's because of nifty inventions like stuff sacks that just pull the air all out, and you have room for your things. Well, we haven't got to the real essentials, which are important, and that is food. Who said food? That's good. That's true. It's food, and it's how you cook that food. So here are the two things I take with me when I'm out for cooking. I also have some of this lovely plastic, non-breakable silverware, plasticware. Yeah. Anyway, I go the full way. I always have 2 forks, 2 spoons, and a knife. You know, have to have a proper setting for me to eat. No, actually, these help out. So when you're mixing things, you have things, but keep them in a bag so you know where they are. Also, you can do those, dip those in the water and clean your stuff, and then hang them up and they dry. There's a lot of uses for that. Now, you're going like, okay, what do you cook on? Believe it or not, here's my stove. All right? You open this little gem up. It fits on here. Probably got to open this. This one screws down. This is the gas. You can put your cup on there. Now, I'm a master trainer in Leave No Trace, and the gentleman who taught me Leave No Trace, this is all he carries to cook in. And he uses a heat tab from the military on a little ring. And in the morning, he makes his oatmeal or whatever he's going to eat, and then he makes his first cup of coffee with all the leftovers that are in there from whatever he's eating, okay? And so he mixes that up so it gets loose and sort of cleans, and he drinks his coffee. And then the next cup of coffee he makes, it's actually clean, and it tastes like normal coffee, and there's not things inside of it, all right? And then he drinks that, and this is what he uses totally for cooking. Now, believe it or not, we all go to the supermarket, and a lot of people go to stores and buy very expensive backpacking food. But you can find Bear Creek soups, all right, in your supermarket for about $3 or $4. Feeds 4 people. And then you can get packaged meat, whether it's tuna or chicken. Or you can go to Dick's Sporting Goods and spend $5 or $6 for the same thing. That this is like $2.50. So you have to know where you go. I call it the dehydrated food aisle in my when I go shopping, because that's what it is. But anyway, oh, and then of course for you guys, this would be an important breakfast. What's this? Pop-Tarts. Thank you. I knew you'd know what that was. All right, but you know, sometimes at night, a lot of times I carry a book with me because I like to read. All right, and so you know, a lot of scout groups and a lot of scouters remember when they had big lanterns and big things of gas, and they had to pump them up. Well, remember this little stove that I just used for cooking? Well, I take that unit off, and I add this unit. And I have a lantern. Instead of having a big glass globe and a lantern that's out all the time, that makes my light. So, do you want to, you can just, thanks, Matt. So there's a couple of things here that I wanted to bring together about what's in your backpack. The thing of it is that each of us were created by God. And God has made us unique individuals. That means there's only one of us, right? We're each different. Even though we're sitting either next to another boy or another girl, we're not the same person. We each have been given gifts. And so when we were talking about the salt of the earth in this passage from Matthew, we're talking about us going out into the world and sharing ourselves with others. As Christians, and we do that, and we share our faith, maybe not by sharing it verbally, but that's one method, but maybe sharing it by what we do and how we do it. There was a girl the other day, I was doing an AP English class, and she was sitting down, she was talking about her two grandmothers. And she said they're such different people. One sits home and watches TV, the other one gets out and goes to soup kitchens and helps and volunteers and does that. And one of the other girls asked her, well, what's their age difference? And she said, they're both 83. But one's out sharing their lives. That's being that salt that gets out there. Now, if we think about the church as sort of like a salt shaker, we have a container to be in, sort of safe. It's other people that believe the same thing we do. But we go out into that alien culture that's out there that a lot of people don't believe or think the church is irrelevant and doesn't have anything to do, and there's no use to belong or understand who we are. But we can sprinkle that salt. We can go from here and go out into the world and have people understand that there is a God. And that God is important to each and every one of us. Because Baden Powell, who started the Boy Scouts, was a good Anglican. And if you know anything about the Anglican Church, the one thing they're big on is having people understand their own spirituality. Who is God in your life? Who is the thing that drives who you are? Here, sitting in a church, we know that it's God. But we also know from scouting that there's more than 117 other religions that believe in one God. Do we all believe that God is the same? No. You'd find that out by having a discussion with them. But we all believe that there is a God who created us. So us being the salt that goes out and shares that in an alien culture that doesn't believe that there's no use for that is what makes people understand who God is and how we get driven in our world and what gives us the center of who we are. Because if we don't understand who God is in our lives, we don't understand ourselves. Now the second part of that passage is about being a lamp. All right? And who would hide their lamp under a bushel? So here we're talking about the gifts that we've been given by God, whether it's being able to be a friend, to offer comfort, to cook meals, whatever it is that we do, that God has given us as a gift, something that we have grown up with. Some of us don't even think about those as gifts. It's just who we are. But those were given to us for a reason. But not to hide under a bushel. Not to share with other people. So when you're at school and you see somebody bullying somebody, or somebody being mean in other ways to people, when you are a Christian and you want to share that light, you want to go over and be a friend to that person. It can really be risky business. Because maybe some of your other friends may go like, well, if you're going to talk to that person, I don't want to be a friend of yours. So now you have a choice. What is God asking you to do? Is God asking you to be a friend of somebody that needs one? Or is God saying, no, just go over and play with your friends and don't worry about other people? I know where my choice is for my religion and for my faith. It is to go over and add comfort and to be a part of that. So I want my light to shine. So each of us have an individual respect, but in this church, if we are out salting the alien culture, we should become a beacon on a hill. We should become a light for other people who want to come and learn about how we understand who God is. And how they too can have an understanding of themselves and their faith. So we get to the 12th part of the Scout Law, was being reverent. Being reverent means to be polite, to be kind, right? But it also means to understand other people and be respectful of who they are. It's about diversity. We're all different. But we all have the ability to share ourselves on a meaningful level, on a one-to-one level, about who we are and why we believe what we believe. It doesn't mean we're trying to change somebody else, but at least they know why we do what we do. And maybe they're going to say, I want to be able to do that too. And that's when the change happens. That's when they understand who God is. So to finish up, the one thing that I knew I wanted to go to seminary to be a minister. And so when I used to go to classes, I used to try to figure out what in this class can I take from science or math or something else and take it to what I understand about my religion. So the class that really brought it all together for me was something that you guys all know about, environmental science. The person who was teaching this class was a real forerunner in this, because this was back in the 60s. And environmental science wasn't a word you used. But we had a class called cybernetics. And what he did the first day, he threw a big screen up on the board. And it showed a circle cut into about 35 pieces. And it showed how ants and bugs were there, and how the next creature ate them. You know, and so it went around to getting to the larger pieces of prey, finally got around to the fact that bears were the top on the line of what could be killed. And then he talked about how these things lived, and I thought to myself, where's God in this? If I'm thinking about this in how humans are, you know, if God's not in there, then we're lost. We need to have a spiritual understanding. And so Baden-Powell in scouting was smart in putting the 12th point of the Scout Law as reverent, so that we understand that our spirituality and who we are and how we treat others has to do with the gifts that God has given us and how we can share them with others. So whether we're out salting the world, okay, or we're out being that lamp or that beacon to let people know that there are people who care, it all hinges around our understanding of God in our lives. So, let's not hide our light under a bushel, and let's use our salt shaker, and let's get out and do something. About a year and a half ago, not quite a year and a half ago, a year or 2 months ago, I decided to share a mission and a vision that I wanted to see happen. And here they are. I said we should start a girls' troop because we had that opportunity to give out and be a beacon of hope for a group that's just started. So, think about what your visions you could have, that you could help salt the world and be a light unto God and share who you are. Amen.